Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Amanda and I am a neurodivergent woman. I am autistic, I have ADHD, I have total global aphantasia and a memory disorder called SDAM that stands for severely deficient autobiographical memory. So I haven't done a 5 traits of autism video for a while. I looked it up. It was about 2 months since I've done my last one of these. And basically what this series is when I was first questioning whether or not I might be autistic when I was working on getting my kids diagnosed, I started to write down anytime I came across a trait that seemed like an autistic trait that I shared with other actually autistic content creators and bloggers and things like that. And I got to like 70 something or 80 something on the list before I just stopped writing the list. I came up with more after that, but I was like, yeah, and called. Actually, I think around 50 is when I called to make an appointment to get evaluated. Now, I do want to put in that this is not a medical channel. This is my lived experience. I am medically diagnosed by a psychologist, but like many people in the autistic community, I do believe that self-realized autism is valid because getting a medical diagnosis is not always accessible for people because of many reasons. Some places it's just, that's my pug, you can hear his nails. For some places, it's just not, there's no psychologists that are trained in adult autism anywhere nearby, in America at least. And some places insurance doesn't cover it or doesn't cover enough of it. There's many reasons. And since there really aren't that many resources for autistic adults, especially level 1 autistic, the high masking autistic people, just having a self-realization and being able to start doing self-accommodations is oftentimes enough. That being said, sharing some of the things that relate to me being autistic could help you if you are also on the journey trying to find out if you are autistic. So these are very random. I created this list as ideas just came up in my head. And so there's no rhyme or reason. I'm also, like I said, ADHD. And I think that contributes to a lot of the randomness of my particular list. I know some other autistic people whose lists are very much more organized and categorized. But one thing that I like to say is the only thing I'm consistent about is being very inconsistent. And that's the ADHD side of my brain. I did have a request to do a video talking about autism traits and ADHD traits and where they overlap and where they're different. And so I'm going to kind of like mull over that and try to put some ideas together to come up with a cohesive video because, you know, I like to ramble, which has its time and place, but also sometimes I want to have it go somewhat flow, right? Okay, so number 1 on this list is I have been sleeping with earplugs for so many years. And I do this because I need it to be very quiet when I sleep. If I hear ticking clocks, any breathing noises from somebody else in the room, my pug that y'all seen in some videos, he snores incredibly loudly. I literally cannot sleep if I can hear his snoring. When I was little, so I got diagnosed last fall, but when I was little, I remember when I would go spend the night at my grandma's house, she had one of those really big grandfather clocks, and I didn't have access to earplugs. And I would go to the bathroom, roll up toilet paper and stuff it in my ears. Probably wasn't super safe. Luckily, I never got toilet paper pieces caught down into my ear canals, but I would just lay there and not be able to fall asleep if I didn't have earplugs. And so for many years as an adult. And when I had my kids, I remember being very stressed out because I needed to be able to hear them in the middle of the night. So I forced myself to fall. And I mean, just being a new mom, I was sleepy. So I did sleep without earplugs when my kids were really babies and I needed to be able to hear them. But as soon as I was able to, and they were old enough to come get me in the middle of the night if there was upset, went back to my earplugs. So I've been sleeping with earplugs for years, way before I knew I was autistic. Oh, and then like related, I don't do it as often, but a lot of times I will sleep with a sleep mask because if there's any light in the room with my eyes closed, I still perceive that light and I can't sleep. Sometimes I can tune out lights in a room because the mask itself causes more sensory problems. But sometimes the light, so I have to balance out which one's more annoying. Is it the light or the constricting around my eyes? And so I do have a really nice mask, eye mask, and I use it on nights when I need just complete darkness. Number 2, a very common autistic trait is using scripts for emotionally charged subjects like death, funeral, or severe illnesses. So I remember when I was like in my 20s and teens, anytime the subject of death would come up, I would like almost just exit the conversation because I didn't know what you were supposed to say to somebody who was experiencing that. Or if somebody, came to me and said that they were a family member just got diagnosed with cancer or like a life-threatening condition, I would shut down and it would always really bother me and I'd be so embarrassed because I didn't want to respond that way, but I didn't have the words. I hadn't been modeled how to talk. And so I started using scripts, basically watching TV shows and like picking up like, okay, these are the things that people say to people. And even though they didn't feel like my genuine words, it was the only way that I knew how to convey the empathy that I was feeling because I didn't know what socially acceptable words were supposed to be used in those situations. And I use scripts for other things too, in a lot of places, and they're not necessarily word for word scripts. And that was a thing that a lot of times autistic people take things literally. And so I thought when I heard that autistic people use scripts, it was word for word memorized, but that's not the case. It's just like I have a general plan in my head about what I'm going to say. It's not necessarily word for word, but like for these funeral and illness situations, it was almost word for word, and it did come across almost as robotic. And it was my mask, and it kind of backfired because people thought I was not caring, but it was my coping mechanism. I didn't pre-read these. So I wrote this list again months and months ago, and I just hit record and I'm like, okay, we're going to go to the next 5. Number 3, I want clothes to be comfortable over fashionable. And the reason why I am laughing is because right now I'm sitting very stiff because I am absolutely miserable in this top. And it's brand new. I just bought it and I'm really frustrated. I don't mind talking about my weight. To me, weight is just how my body is presenting in time and space right now. And I don't have a lot of the social hangups around weight that society wants to put on women. That being said, I do prefer being at a lower body weight because for me, it's more comfortable to move through space with less mass on me. And even like a year ago, I weighed a lot less and I've gained a lot of weight very quickly because of a foot injury that, if y'all have seen in my recent videos, I finally addressed and had surgery. and recovering from surgery for the last 6 weeks. I've been very immobile, and I've just gained a lot of weight very quickly. And I ordered this shirt online. I ordered it 2 sizes larger than what I normally would have bought. And I don't know if it's just sized incorrectly or if I've gained that much more weight than I realized. But that being said, it's very tight and uncomfortable. And I just, right now in my closet, I don't have very many clothes that fit me comfortably. And I'm very much looking forward to PT and getting back to moving my body. I was really into yoga and walking before I hurt my foot. And that movement for me every day just felt really good. And I'm very much looking forward to being able to do that again. And then, but regardless of the size of the clothing, even that, like, I will look at women with super amazing fashionable outfits and I love them, but I will constantly like, okay, nope, can't do that because it's got a belt, certain buttons irritate me. I like to wear V-neck shirts because it feels less constricting. And like crew necks always feel like they're choking me. Sometimes I can wear a turtleneck, surprisingly, if it's really stretchy material, but a lot of times turtlenecks are an absolute no. I have to feel the texture of fabric to make sure it's nice and soft, no tags. And so I must my entire adult life have defaulted to worn comfortable jeans and t-shirts because I've just always had a hard time finding clothes that look cute and comfortable. They exist, they're just harder to find, especially in my body that has changed weight a lot over the years. I just fluctuate a lot. Okay, number 4, I over-explain everything trying to be understood. I kid you not, this one should almost be at the top of the list. If 3 words could suffice, I probably will use 10. And that's a common autistic trait because we are so often misunderstood. Just the other day, on TikTok, somebody caught a spelling mistake in my bio. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you. I'm going to fix it now. Now, they were also being rude because they were fake claiming me about saying I was pretending to be autistic, which is a whole nother video topic. But I was ignoring the rude part. I just said, oh, because I legit had a spelling mistake. So I said, thank you in my comment. And then I addressed their fake claiming and I said, I'm not pretending to be autistic. I have a diagnosis. But because they were being rude, they apparently were expecting my response to be defensive or sarcastic. Because they came back and they said, oh, see, I know you're not autistic because your response was sarcastic, and autistic people don't understand sarcasm. And let's break that down for a second, because 1, I wasn't being sarcastic. I was like, oh, I made a mistake. Thank you. And I fixed it. Like, there was no intention of sarcasm in that. And that's the thing. We will say things all the time, and our words, we speak so plainly often, and there's all this other intentions that get put on our words that we do not mean. Secondly, that could be like 4.5, I guess. Many autistic people don't understand sarcasm, but a lot of autistic people do. A lot of autistic people, sarcasm becomes a special interest because they want to be able to understand it. I can sometimes get sarcasm when it's being directed at me verbally. I miss sarcasm in print quite often. And then even verbally, a lot of times I have to ask. I do miss a lot of sarcasm. Now, I can be sarcastic, but I'm kind of like in control of that. Like, so I know I'm being sarcastic. Now, I don't know if it actually gets delivered well now that I think about it. But yeah, I do fit the stereotype of sarcasm not being something I'm very good at. But I wasn't being sarcastic. I was just trying to say thank you to this person. And I was misunderstood. And that happens like every single day of my life. I do not understand. I think that I'm speaking so plainly and so clearly. And then I get back something that's so different. And it's like, that's not what I meant, not what I said, not what I was thinking, you know, so many things. Okay, number 5. Rounding number makes me very, sorry. Rounding numbers makes me very uncomfortable. I want to say the exact number. This is so hard. Like, so if it's 1:55 p.m., I want to say it's 1:55 p.m. I don't want to say it's 2 o'clock. Like, it's 1:55. It's not 2 o'clock. And sometimes people will ask me, like a friend might ask me, oh, what's your subscriber number at? I have to say the exact subscriber number. And to the point where I have to open up the app and look at it because it's like, I know the subscriber count might be different than what it is. So I need to give the correct number in that moment in time. Money. If somebody, you know, owes me $14.65. This is one that bugs me, but I just let it go because it's too complicated to like, oh no, you owe me $14.65. I'm just like, oh, you can just pay me $14, or, you know, I'll round it down like, oh, you know, whatever. But it internally, I'm like, oh, I want to say the exact, just for the preciseness. It's not that I'm being petty about the money. Like, that is nothing. It has nothing to do with the 65 cents. It has to do with being precise and exact. A lot of times autistic people want precision, and that's also part of the being misunderstood component of it, is that we want, sometimes people will think we're being argumentative and we're just trying to get down to the precision and correctness of a situation. And sorry about that. We're back with a slightly different camera angle because apparently the sound just cut off the end of my video. So I just want to wrap it up and say those are 5 different autistic traits. I want people to realize that autistic traits are human traits. Anybody can relate to any of the traits that I said today. For instance, a lot of people find, you know, fashionable clothes or different clothing uncomfortable and want a specific style, and they prefer comfort over, you know, fashion perhaps. That doesn't mean that you're autistic. What makes you autistic is when you relate to more and more autistic traits and they affect your daily life. And also, traits are separate from diagnostic criteria. So these are traits that a lot of autistic people relate to and have some familiarity and share with each other, but these traits aren't specific to the diagnostic criteria of being autistic. I'm trying to recapture my last ending, and that's not going to work because I don't script and I just talk off the cuff. So I'm just going to go ahead and create newly here and say thank you so much for watching this video. If you related to any of the traits that I mentioned in this one, go ahead and comment down below and kind of share your story about that, and give this video a like so it helps the algorithm, because I want to advocate and bring more awareness about autism. And until the next one, guys, bye.